Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how some women, without needing to try too hard, without relying on complicated techniques, somehow leave a man completely surrendered? Long after it's over, he's still thinking about her. Not the act itself, but the feeling, the way she made him feel. For a long time, I also thought it was all about technique. Learning moves, memorizing steps, doing everything right. But the more I observed, the more I realized, it's not your tongue alone that makes him desire you. It's your energy. It's the way you hold his gaze, the rhythm you create, the unexpected pause, the subtle signal that you're not just doing it, you're enjoying every moment. That's what burns into his memory. That's what keeps him hooked. This video isn't about cheap tricks to make him finish faster. You can find that anywhere, and honestly, it's forgettable. This is about turning something raw and physical into something unforgettable, emotional, magnetic, an experience that makes him feel chosen, desired, lucky. Today I'm going to reveal the 5 oral secrets that don't just bring pleasure for a moment, but pull him closer to you, body, mind, and heart. Because here's the truth. He might forget the details of what you did, but he'll never forget how you made him feel in that moment. The invisible energy that holds a man. When Carl Jung spoke about attraction and human connection, he rarely reduced it to the physical alone. He believed that what binds two people together is not just action, but energy. This invisible energy is something we cannot touch, cannot measure, but we feel it in every part of our body. For women who want to awaken a man's deepest desire, this energy matters more than any technique. You may learn steps, practice movements, or study tips, but without this invisible current, it fades quickly. With it, he stays hooked long after the act is over. This energy does not come from effort or force. It comes from presence. When a woman is fully present in the moment, something shifts. She is not in her head, thinking of whether she is doing it right or comparing herself to others. She is in her body, connected to her feelings, allowing her natural rhythm to flow. This presence creates a magnetic field that a man cannot resist. He feels that he is not with a performer but with someone real, someone alive in the moment. That reality is unforgettable. Jung often said that the unconscious communicates through signals that bypass logic. In intimacy, these signals matter more than words. A slow inhale, a pause at the right time, a shift in gaze. These are not techniques learned in a book, but spontaneous expressions of presence. They show the man that you are with him, not just physically but emotionally, and it is this invisible bond that creates memory. He may forget the detail of how your lips moved, but he will not forget how the energy in the room made him feel chosen. The invisible energy that holds a man is not loud. It is not about exaggeration. It is subtle, like a quiet song playing in the background that changes the entire mood of a room. When you slow down instead of rushing, when you breathe into the moment, when you let your eyes speak more than your hands, you tap into this current. He feels seen, not only as a body but as a person. This is where pleasure turns into connection, and connection turns into something he craves again and again. For many women, the challenge is silence inside their own minds. Thoughts of insecurity, self-doubt, or pressure can block this invisible energy. Jung described this as the shadow of fear taking over. But when you allow yourself to step beyond the noise, to embrace your natural presence, the shadow loses power. What remains is authenticity, and authenticity is what a man feels deep in his unconscious. He may not explain it, but he knows it is rare. Think of this energy as a bridge. On one side is the physical act. On the other side is the emotional memory. Without the bridge, the act stays only physical. With the bridge, it travels into his unconscious, where it lingers and shapes his desire. This bridge is built not by tricks, but by awareness, by being attuned to your own rhythm, by letting go of performance and embracing real contact. Jung believed that true connection comes when two people meet not only with their bodies but with their souls. The invisible energy that holds a man is the soul's way of touching him. It is not about perfection. It is not about being flawless. It is about being alive, vulnerable, and real. This is why some women, without trying to be the best, remain unforgettable. Their energy speaks louder than technique, and it leaves an imprint no man can erase. So the first secret is not about doing more, but about being more present. When you stop rushing, when you stop performing, when you let your natural rhythm flow, you create an energy that pulls him in and holds him. That invisible current is what Jung would call the deeper truth of intimacy, that we remember not what was done to us, but how it made us feel. And when you master this, you become the kind of woman who lives not in his memory for a night, but in his soul for years to come. The secret game between eyes and desire. Carl Jung believed that the eyes reveal parts of the unconscious that words can never fully capture. In intimacy, this truth becomes even clearer. When a woman locks eyes with a man in those moments, something powerful happens. It is not just sight. It is connection. The gaze becomes a language of its own, a silent conversation that creates desire far beyond the physical act. Many women underestimate the power of eye contact. They focus on what their hands or their mouth are doing, but they forget that the eyes carry the strongest signal. A single look can tell a man more than hours of words. It can say, "I see you, I want you," or "You belong to me right now." This is the secret game between eyes and desire, using the gaze not just to look, but to pull him deeper into the experience. Think of the eyes as mirrors. Jung often described projection as the way we place our inner world onto others. In intimacy, projection becomes electric. When you hold his gaze, he is not only looking at you, he is seeing his own desire reflected back. He feels chosen. He feels recognized. This recognition feeds his unconscious need to be desired, and once fed, it leaves a mark he cannot forget. The secret is not in staring too intensely, but in knowing when to look and when to look away. A steady gaze at the right moment can make his heart race. A sudden glance away can build anticipation. This play between presence and absence keeps his desire alive. It is like a dance, one step closer, one step back, that builds tension and makes every moment feel alive. Jung said that desire is not sustained by constant fulfillment, but by the balance between longing and satisfaction. Eye contact works exactly the same way. If you never look at him, he feels distant. If you stare without pause, the mystery fades. But if you weave your gaze like a thread, sometimes tight, sometimes loose, you create a fabric of anticipation. And anticipation is the heartbeat of desire. The beauty of this secret is that it requires no words, no complicated moves. It only requires presence. When you look at him with genuine curiosity, when your eyes soften instead of harden, he feels something he cannot explain. He feels seen not as an object, but as a man, and that feeling goes deeper than any technique. In this game, small details matter. The way your eyes widen for a second, the way your lashes lower as if you are savoring the moment, the spark that comes when you glance back after looking away. These are signals that bypass logic and strike directly at the unconscious. Jung would call this archetypal language, expressions that every human understands without needing translation. The secret game between eyes and desire is powerful because it transforms intimacy from physical action into emotional memory. A man may forget the rhythm of your movements, but he will never forget the look in your eyes when you made him feel desired. That look lingers. It appears in his memory when he is alone. It becomes the part of the experience that replays in his mind again and again. And here lies the real magic. When you master this game, you no longer compete with techniques or tricks. You stand apart because you reach him on a level most never touch. The eyes speak to his unconscious, and once that door is opened, he cannot close it. He will always associate you with a depth he cannot find elsewhere. So the second secret is not about what you do with your body, but about how you use your gaze. Eyes are more than sight. They are the bridge between souls. When you understand this, you stop seeing intimacy as performance and start seeing it as communication. And the strongest message you can send is in silence, through the look that says, "I see you, I want you, and in this moment, you are mine." If you want to go deeper and truly understand the hidden patterns shaping your relationships, the Jung method is your guide. The link is pinned in the first comment. When the pause speaks louder than speed. Carl Jung often explained that the unconscious does not respond well to constant noise or endless movement. It awakens when there is space, silence, or contrast. The same principle applies to intimacy. Many believe that speed and intensity are what excite a man the most. But in truth, it is often the pause that creates the deepest impact. The moment you stop, slow down, or hold still for just long enough, his mind fills the gap. That gap is where desire grows stronger. Imagine listening to music without pauses. The sound would blur into a wall of noise. What makes music powerful are the rests, the beats of silence that give shape to the melody. Intimacy works the same way. If every second is filled with constant speed, the body reacts, but the soul does not remember. When you pause, when you hold back at the moment he expects more, you create tension. And tension is the foundation of unforgettable desire. Jung would say this is how opposites work in the psyche. Without shadow, we cannot see light. Without silence, we cannot appreciate sound. Without pause, we cannot feel the rush of movement. The pause gives meaning to the speed. It turns a physical act into an emotional journey. A man may not consciously think about it, but unconsciously he registers that you are in control of the rhythm, that you are guiding not only his body but his feelings. The pause is powerful because it builds anticipation. Anticipation is one of the strongest drivers of desire. When he does not know what will come next, his attention sharpens. His senses heighten. He is fully present, waiting for your next move. This presence locks him into the moment with you, and once he experiences it, it becomes unforgettable. Many women fear pausing because they think it will break the mood. In reality, the opposite is true. The pause magnifies the mood. It tells him that you are not in a hurry, that you are savoring the moment, that you are in full control. This control is not domination but confidence. Confidence that you do not need to rush, that you trust the connection enough to slow it down. Think of the pause as a form of punctuation. Just as sentences need commas and periods to give meaning, moments of intimacy need pauses to create depth. Without them, everything feels rushed and shallow. With them, everything feels intentional and layered. A simple pause can turn an ordinary act into something extraordinary, because it allows space for emotion to rise. Jung observed that the unconscious communicates through symbols and contrasts. In intimacy, the pause becomes a symbol of presence. It says, I am here, I am aware, I am with you. That awareness changes everything. It takes the experience from mechanical to meaningful, from forgettable to unforgettable. When you use the pause wisely, you also reveal something about yourself. You show that you are not just performing, not just following a script, but listening to your body, to his signals, to the energy between you. This listening creates trust, and trust deepens connection more than any amount of speed ever could. It is important to remember that the pause is not absence. It is not pulling away completely. It is the art of holding just enough space for tension to grow. A soft breath, a lingering touch, a moment of stillness while your eyes lock. These are the pauses that echo in his memory long after. They become the highlights of the story he will replay in his mind. A man may forget how fast things happened, but he will remember the pause that made him crave the next moment. He will remember the silence that spoke louder than noise, the stillness that carried more intensity than movement. Jung would call this the paradox of opposites, that sometimes the absence of action creates the strongest action of all. So, the third secret is simple, yet profound. Let the pause speak. Do not fear slowing down. Do not fear holding back for just a second longer. In that space, you create a psychological bond that speed alone can never achieve. And when you master this, you become unforgettable. Not because you rushed to please him, but because you made him feel the tension, the anticipation, and the release in a way that touched not only his body but his soul, the power of conscious surrender. Carl Jung often spoke about the paradoxes of human nature. One of the most powerful is that sometimes strength is not found in control, but in surrender. In intimacy, this truth becomes striking. Many women believe that to hold a man's desire, they must always be in charge, always performing, always proving their worth. But in reality, what creates the deepest connection is conscious surrender, the ability to let go, to trust the moment, and to allow both bodies and souls to flow together. There is a difference between surrender that is forced and surrender that is chosen. Jung would call the first one weakness and the second one transformation. When a woman surrenders consciously, she is not losing herself. She is stepping into trust. She is allowing the experience to unfold, not out of fear or duty, but out of presence and awareness. This type of surrender creates a powerful field of energy that a man feels instantly. Men are used to the idea of control. They often feel pressure to lead, to decide, to perform. But when they sense that a woman is truly present, not resisting, not calculating, but surrendering with awareness, it touches something deep inside them. It awakens their unconscious desire to protect, to cherish, to connect. Jung described this as the dance of archetypes, the meeting of strength and softness, action and receptivity. Conscious surrender is not about silence or passivity. It is about participation in a different form. It is the moment when you breathe deeply, release tension from your body, and let the rhythm of connection guide you instead of trying to control every detail. This surrender is powerful because it communicates trust, and trust is what binds desire to memory. When a man feels trusted, he feels safe to reveal himself. He lowers his guard. He lets his emotions show. This creates intimacy far beyond physical closeness. The act becomes more than performance. It becomes communion. And this communion is what he never forgets. Jung would explain that surrender opens the door to the unconscious because it silences the ego. The ego always wants control. Am I doing this right? Am I enough? But when you surrender consciously, you quiet those voices. You stop judging yourself. You let the moment become larger than your doubts. This shift allows your natural magnetism to rise, and magnetism is what holds him long after the act ends. The power of conscious surrender also lies in contrast. Just as pause gives meaning to speed, surrender gives meaning to strength. When you surrender, you show that you do not need to fight for control because your power is already secure. This quiet confidence is deeply attractive. It tells him, "You are free to be yourself and I am free to be myself." That freedom creates a bond that no performance can match. Women often fear that surrender will make them seem weak, but Jung would argue the opposite. True weakness is hiding behind control, never trusting, never opening. True strength is the ability to let go while staying grounded. Conscious surrender is not about abandoning yourself. It is about embracing yourself so fully that you can release fear. This energy does not make you smaller. It makes you magnetic. In the end, conscious surrender is what transforms intimacy from an act into a memory. A man may forget what you did, but he will not forget how you surrendered with trust, how you let the moment carry both of you into something larger. He will remember the softness that carried strength, the silence that spoke louder than words. So the fourth secret is this: choose surrender, not as weakness, but as power. Let your body, your breath, your presence show that you trust the moment. In that trust lies a bond that no technique can create. And when you master this, you discover what Jung saw so clearly, that the greatest strength often looks like softness, and the most unforgettable moments are born when you let go consciously. How to turn pleasure into emotional memory. Carl Jung often reminded us that the human mind does not cling to surface events but to the emotions tied to them. This is why some moments fade quickly, while others stay with us for years. In intimacy, the same rule applies. What a man remembers is not the sequence of actions or the technical details, but the way those moments made him feel. This is where the art of turning pleasure into emotional memory becomes essential. Many women believe that skill alone is enough to make an experience unforgettable. They focus on moves, timing, and effort. But the truth is that memory is not built on repetition of steps. It is built on emotion. The unconscious mind collects sensations, looks, and subtle signals, then translates them into a story that shapes desire. When you understand this, you no longer try to impress with performance. You aim to create moments that linger in his soul. Jung explained that the psyche works through symbols and impressions. Think of how a smell, a sound, or a glance can suddenly bring back a strong memory from years ago. That memory was anchored not in detail but in emotion. Intimacy works in exactly the same way. A man may forget how long something lasted or what order it happened in, but he will not forget the feeling of being desired, the glance that told him he was seen, or the pause that made him crave more. So how does pleasure become memory? The first key is presence. When you are present, when you stop worrying about how you look or whether you are doing it right, your energy shifts. You are no longer divided between your thoughts and the moment. You are fully there. This presence creates a vibration that he feels, and that feeling is what gets stored in his unconscious. The second key is variety. Memory forms around contrast. If everything is the same, nothing stands out. But when you vary rhythm, when you shift between intensity and pause, when you let the experience move like a wave, certain moments rise above the rest. Those moments become highlights, and highlights are what memory preserves. Jung would call this the balance of opposites, the dance between tension and release that gives meaning to both. The third key is emotion itself. Pleasure without emotion fades quickly, but when you allow yourself to feel, when your breath, your sounds, your eyes all reflect genuine enjoyment, he does not just see you, he feels you. That authenticity imprints itself in his unconscious. He may not analyze it, but he will carry it with him, often without knowing why he cannot forget. Another way to turn pleasure into memory is through subtle rituals. A small gesture, a certain look, Even a repeated phrase can become an anchor in his psyche. Jung described how the unconscious responds strongly to ritual because it carries symbolic meaning. When you repeat something meaningful in moments of deep intimacy, it becomes a marker in his mind, a reminder that separates your connection from any other. What matters most is that you do not chase perfection. Memory does not live in flawless performance, it lives in moments that feel real. Sometimes the slight hesitation, the playful smile, or the unexpected pause becomes more powerful than any polished act. These details show humanity, and humanity is what creates emotional depth. In the end, a man may forget every exact detail of what happened, but he will not forget how you made him feel desired, how you pulled him into presence, how you created a rhythm of tension and release that touched not only his body, but his soul. That is how pleasure becomes memory, through presence, variety, emotion, and meaning. So the fifth secret is this: do not aim only for satisfaction, aim for memory. Every gesture, every glance, every pause has the power to linger in his unconscious long after the night is over. And when you learn this art, you stop being just another moment in his life. You become the story he tells himself again and again, the memory he cannot escape, the feeling that makes him crave you long after, why he feels when you're truly present. Carl Jung often explained that people can sense truth beyond words. The unconscious recognizes authenticity, even when the conscious mind cannot explain it. In intimacy, this principle becomes vital. A man can feel when you are truly present. He might not be able to describe it, but his body and soul respond instantly. Presence is the difference between an act he forgets tomorrow and an experience that stays with him forever. What does it mean to be present? It means your mind is not wandering. You are not trapped in thoughts about how you look, whether you are enough, or what comes next. Instead, your focus is here, now, fully absorbed in the moment. You are feeling with your body, seeing with your eyes, listening with your whole being. This energy is magnetic. It wraps around him and tells him without words, "I am here with you and only you." Many women believe that men cannot sense subtle shifts in energy. Jung's studies and observations show the opposite. The unconscious picks up every signal: the breath that is deep or shallow, the touch that is rushed or patient, the gaze that is engaged or distant. A man may not consciously notice each detail, but together they form a truth he feels. If you are distracted, he feels distance. If you are present, he feels chosen. Presence is powerful because it breaks routine. Most men are used to interactions that are half-hearted, distracted, or purely physical. When they encounter real presence, it shocks the system. It tells them this moment is different. This person is different, and once that realization sets in, it carves a deep memory in the unconscious. He may not know why, but he cannot let it go. Jung often spoke about individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all parts of yourself. Presence in intimacy is a form of individuation in action. You are not split between body and mind. You are not divided by self-doubt and performance. You are whole, and in that wholeness you radiate confidence. This confidence is not loud or forced. It is quiet and natural, and it draws him closer than any technique could. The reason presence feels so strong is that it creates safety. When you are present, he feels he can let down his guard. He senses that you are not somewhere else in your head, but right there with him. This awareness allows him to open, to soften, to trust. And when trust grows, desire deepens. The two become inseparable. Being present also changes the rhythm of intimacy. You respond to what is actually happening, not to a script or expectation. You notice his breathing, his signals, his responses. You adjust naturally without effort. This responsiveness shows him that he matters, that the connection is alive, not mechanical. It is this aliveness that makes the experience unforgettable. One reason many women struggle with presence is fear. Fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough, fear of making mistakes. Jung described fear as the shadow of the psyche, always pulling us away from the present moment. But when you face that shadow, when you allow yourself to release fear and step into trust, presence flows naturally. And once you discover this, you realize it was never about technique. It was always about energy. A man might forget what you did, but he will never forget the feeling of your full attention. He will remember how your eyes stayed with him, how your breath synced with his, how your energy wrapped around him like a safe space. That memory becomes part of his inner world, impossible to erase. So the sixth secret is this: presence is the key to depth. Do not underestimate the power of simply being there fully with no distractions. Jung would say that the unconscious recognizes authenticity instantly, and once it feels it, it never lets it go. When you are truly present, you give a man not just pleasure but belonging, and belonging is what he craves most. The archetype of the magnetic woman. Carl Jung taught that the human mind is shaped by archetypes, universal patterns that live in our collective unconscious. They are symbols we all recognize, even without explanation. One of the most powerful archetypes in intimacy is what we might call the magnetic woman. She is not defined by looks or technique. She is defined by the energy she carries, the way she awakens desire without effort, and the way she leaves a mark long after she is gone. The magnetic woman is not a performer. She does not need to chase or prove. Her presence alone speaks. When she enters a space, she carries a calm confidence that makes people notice without understanding why. Jung would say this is archetypal energy. It triggers something ancient inside us, a recognition that goes beyond logic. In intimacy, this archetype becomes unforgettable because it awakens a man's deepest longing, not just to be touched, but to be seen, chosen, and valued. What makes this woman magnetic? First, it is her authenticity. She is not trying to be someone else. She does not copy, pretend, or overcompensate. She accepts who she is, shadows included. This acceptance radiates outwards. Men feel it instantly because it signals safety and strength. Jung explained that when someone integrates their shadow, facing fears, doubts, and flaws, they stop projecting insecurity. They become whole. Wholeness is magnetic. Second, the magnetic woman knows how to balance opposites. She is soft yet strong, gentle yet powerful, playful yet serious. This dance of contrast keeps desire alive because it mirrors the unconscious itself, which is built on opposites. Jung believed we are drawn to those who embody both sides of a polarity. In her presence, a man feels the thrill of unpredictability, yet the comfort of safety. He never knows exactly what will happen, and that keeps his desire alive. Third, she communicates through energy more than words. The look in her eyes, the rhythm of her breath, the pauses she allows. All these signals bypass the rational mind and go straight to the unconscious. A man may forget her words, but he will never forget her energy. Jung called this symbolic communication, where gestures carry meanings far deeper than language. The magnetic woman also embodies conscious surrender. She does not control every detail or cling to fear. She allows herself to flow with the moment, showing trust in herself and in the connection. This surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It shows that she does not need to defend or prove herself. This calm confidence is what men find irresistible. Another key aspect is that she makes pleasure emotional. She does not give just for the sake of giving. She connects the act to feeling. When she enjoys, when she is present, when she shows genuine desire, it transforms everything. He feels not just physical satisfaction but emotional memory. That is why he cannot forget her. Jung would say that the magnetic woman is an archetype because she represents something timeless. She is not tied to culture, trends, or appearance. She is the embodiment of energy that every man unconsciously craves: authenticity, presence, balance, surrender, and depth. To step into this archetype, you do not need to change who you are. You need to strip away what is false. Release the pressure to perform. Let go of the fear of imperfection. Embrace your real presence with both light and shadow. This authenticity is what makes you magnetic. It is not about adding layers, it is about removing masks. In the end, the magnetic woman is unforgettable not because of what she does, but because of who she is. She touches a man's unconscious, leaving a mark that no one else can replace. He may not understand it fully, but he feels it deeply. And once felt, it never fades. So the seventh secret is this: step into the archetype of the magnetic woman. Do not chase, do not perform, do not hide. Be real, be whole, be present. Jung would say this is when you embody an archetype, and once you do, you stop being just a woman in his life. You become a symbol in his unconscious, what he never forgets afterward. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious does not record events like a camera. Instead, it records meaning. Long after an experience is over, what remains are the impressions, the emotions, the silent truths felt in the moment. When it comes to intimacy, this explains why some women remain unforgettable. A man may forget the details of what happened, but he never forgets how she made him feel. This final secret is not about new tricks or techniques. It is about understanding what truly lasts. Speed fades, technique can be replaced, and perfection is impossible to hold. But the memory of being seen, desired, and chosen stays forever. When a woman brings presence, energy, and emotion into the act, she creates an imprint that lingers in his unconscious. He may not talk about it, he may not even fully understand it, but he will carry it. So, what does he never forget afterward? First, he never forgets the feeling of safety. When he sensed that he could let his guard down, that he did not have to perform, that he could simply be himself. It carved a deep memory. Jung taught that the unconscious seeks wholeness, and moments of safety bring us closer to that wholeness. A man who felt safe with you will always remember. Second, he never forgets authenticity. When you were real, when you were not pretending, when you showed both playfulness and depth, it marked him. Authenticity is rare, and the unconscious recognizes it instantly. He might forget 1,000 false smiles, but he will never forget the one moment you looked at him with truth in your eyes. Third, he never forgets the balance of tension and release. The pauses, the rhythm, the play between giving and holding back, all of these created anticipation. Anticipation is one of the strongest anchors for memory. He will replay not the speed but the waiting, the craving, the moment before. Jung would say this is how opposites shape the soul. Through contrast, we find meaning. Fourth, he never forgets the emotion. If you allowed yourself to feel, if your breath, your sounds, your eyes all carried genuine desire, that emotion became his memory. People may fake actions, but they cannot fake energy. Energy is felt, not seen, and once it is felt, it remains. Finally, he never forgets the sense of being chosen. In a world where men often feel replaceable, being truly chosen by a woman creates an unforgettable mark. That look in your eyes, that subtle signal of you and only you right now, that is what the unconscious holds on to. Jung explained that archetypes speak through such moments. In your presence, he experienced not just pleasure but belonging. This is why you do not need to be perfect. Perfection is forgettable. Presence is not. Authenticity is not. Energy is not. A man may move on. He may enter new relationships, but the memory of the woman who made him feel safe, seen, and desired will never fade. She becomes part of his inner world, part of his story, part of the way he understands intimacy. So the eighth secret is this. Know that what he never forgets afterward has little to do with what you did and everything to do with how you made him feel. Jung would say that the unconscious remembers the essence, not the detail. And if the essence was truth, connection, and magnetism, you will never be forgotten. In the end, the journey of these secrets is not about control, but about awareness. It is about learning that intimacy is more than physical. It is emotional, symbolic, and deeply unconscious. Jung showed us that when two people connect beyond the surface, they awaken forces that last long after the moment has passed. The man may forget the act, but he will carry the feeling in his soul. And that, more than anything else, is what makes a woman unforgettable.